number 8 of our genetic note packet is dealing with multiple alleles. Now, let's talk about what an allele is. Go ahead and turn all the way back to your vocabulary page at the beginning of this chapter where we had alleles. It should be somewhere around, what is that, page 16. Interactive notebook, page 16. Who can tell me what an allele is? Okay. Who can tell me what an allele is? Go ahead, Lewis. The letter that represents different forms of a gene. Okay? So when we've been talking about these alleles, okay, we've just been talking about 2 different types. For instance, we might have a mouse that either had brown fur or white fur, right? We talked about brown eyes or blue eyes. Now today, we are going to bring into the situation multiple alleles, meaning that there are not just 2. One of the most common that we deal with are blood types. Okay? So, if we look at these and we read through, this should be your interactive notebook, page 31 at the top. So far, we have studied traits or genes that are coded by just 2 alleles. Like in rabbits, there was 1 allele for brown hair, 1 allele for white hair. However, some traits are coded by more than 2 alleles. One of these is blood types in humans. This is a violation of Mendel's principle of unit characteristics. In humans, there are 4 types of blood. Type A, type B, type AB, and type O. You are one of those 4 types, folks. Does anybody know what their blood type is? Lewis? You're type A? Anybody else? I had no idea what my blood type was until maybe 3 or 4 years ago when another teacher was doing a test. It was applied physiology, and it was Mrs. Bruns. She's no longer here. She teaches at a different school. But she did a lab in which you pricked your finger and put some blood on and then tested it to see what your blood type was. So when she was doing that, I said, you know what? I'm going to go down there and figure out what blood type I am. So I went down there, and my blood type was B positive. Okay, I like that, and I always remember because I always try to be positive. Okay? I don't like to be negative. I like to be positive. So I always remember that my blood type's B positive. Now, the alleles A and B are codominant. We just talked about codominant yesterday. Review. What is codominant? What is codominant? Sydney, give me your definition of codominant. You can look back on yesterday's stuff. Okay? Try to help you out. Codominant. Should have been part 7, right? What do you think? Codominant. Got anything? Neither one of them dominates over the other, but in this case, they dominate over O. All right? Neither one of them dominate over the other. Remember when we talked about codominance yesterday? We talked about a red flower and a white flower, and when we had the heterozygous, it was pink, right? Is that normal when we talk about genetics? No, because usually we have a dominant and recessive. If they're codominant, there we could have the red, the white, the pink. Now, this brings a little bit more into it because we have codominants. A and B are codominant. O is recessive. So we have codominants and we have recessives. So the alleles A and B are codominant to each other, and the O allele is recessive to both A and B. So a person with a genotype of AA or AO will have A-type blood. Does that make sense? A or AO will have A-type blood. Now, as I come down just a little bit, my first question here, what are possible genotypes that will produce B-type blood? Okay. Olivia, what do you think? Can you give me any? A possible genotype of B blood. Huh? Just one? Okay, look at what we just said, the very last sentence dealing with A type. Give me a genotype of B. Capital B, good. Capital B, capital B. Is that the only one? Is that the only one? What else? BO, the stinky one. Okay. Now, what is the genotype that will produce O blood? What do you think, Linda? What will produce O blood? Huh? 2 O's? Is that what you said? 2 capital O's is what Linda said. Exactly. Is that the only one? Yeah. Yeah, because it's the recessive. That's the only one. What is the only genotype that will produce AB blood? Maddie, what's the only genotype that will produce AB blood? AB. Excellent. Now, I'm just going to show you, we can do this a couple of different ways, okay? We can do this a couple of different ways. Sometimes we see it just with this letter like that. Sometimes I've seen it with an I that has an A and an I that has a B. Like I said, I was just looking up what this I means right here. Okay, right here it said isoagglutinogen. Isoagglutinogen. The I stands for that. Isoagglutinogen. It is an antigen. So, you don't need to know that. Okay, I didn't know that until I just looked it up. But sometimes, nonetheless, we will see these written as A and B and little I for O. But that's not the way that I'm going to teach you how to do it. Okay? Right here it says, and this is your number 1 in your packet or on your page. We're still on 31, aren't we? Okay? So it says, you are blood type O. You marry a person with blood type AB. Complete a Punnett square for this cross. So, I've got a Punnett square. I put my square It says you are O. You marry a person with AB. So, as I look at this, list the possible phenotypes of your offspring. Now, key here, folks, key here is the possible phenotypes. So, what are the phenotypes of this particular cross? Type A blood and type B blood. So your offspring in this cross could be either type A or type B. Not too tough, was it? Okay? It's not too tough. Let's move on to the next example. Question number 2. In the 1950s, a young woman sued film star / director Charlie Chaplin for parental support of her illegitimate child. Charlie Chaplin's blood type was already on record as type AB. The mother of the child had type A blood, and her son had type O blood. Complete a Punnett square or squares for the possible crosses of Charlie and the mother. So, I look at this, okay? It tells me that Chaplin was AB, right? So Chaplin was AB. What about the mother? The mother was what? Zoe, what was the mother's? The mother was type A. So what is the genotype for the mom? A. It could be AO. Does it have to be? Wait. Does it have to be AO? Okay. Could it be something else? It could be AA. It just, we're not there yet. Okay, because you can't use that. I'm telling you, you can't use that. It could be AA, right. It didn't tell you what the mother was. So, could that mother be AO? Yes. Could that mother be AA? Yes. Now, if I do the cross, both of these crosses, there's the first one. There's the second one. Would we agree? Did I do my crosses right there? Now, it says, the judge ruled in favor of the mother and ordered Charlie Chaplin to pay child support costs for the child. Was the judge correct in his decision based on the blood typing evidence? Was that judge correct? John? No. Jonathan says, no, that judge was not correct. Why is the judge wrong, Jonathan? Charlie Chaplin does not have an O in his blood type, does he? So, O is recessive. The only way that you can have a baby that has O blood is if both parents have O. correct? Is it possible for Charlie Chaplin to have an O? No. So, how are we going to explain that? You're going to say that. You're going to say the judge was wrong because Charlie Chaplin does not have an O allele. Therefore, he could not have a baby with O blood. Okay? He could not have a baby with O blood. Now, see, folks, when we're dealing with this, we're using this genetics right there. We use this genetics to help us determine whether somebody was the father or not, correct? Here's another example. Here's another example in which we can do that. Suppose a newborn baby was accidentally mixed up in the hospital. In an effort to determine the parents of the baby, the blood types of the baby, and 2 sets of parents were determined. Now, does this ever happen? Yeah. They've had it when people have left the hospital with the wrong baby and actually raised the wrong kid. It's happened before. Okay? Now, they take a lot of safeguards to prevent this from happening, but it has happened. Now, baby 1 has blood type O. So what does that tell us? What does that tell us? Baby 1 has blood type O. Tells us what, Kayla? Okay. This should tell you something about the parents, that the baby is blood type O. Don't see it? Huh? Have one? Right, the parents, each parent has to at least have an O, correct? Each parent has to have an O. Well, it says Mrs. Brown has type B, Mr. Brown has type AB. Mrs. Smith has type B, Mr. Smith has type B. Draw a Punnett square for each couple. You may need to do more than one square. Well, if you truly understand what you're talking about, you should already know who the parents are, right? Give me a thumb up if you think you know who the parents are. Miguel? No idea? Yeah? You playing? Okay. What do you think, Dylan? You think Mr. and Mrs. Smith are the parents. Why do you think that, Dylan? I don't know, just a guess. Okay. Dylan's into guessing. Anybody help back him up? We don't want to just guess whose baby that is, do we? Let's flip a coin. It's the Smiths. Okay. What do you think? Maddie? All right. Okay. Maddie just said it cannot be Mr. Brown's kid. It can't be the Browns because Mr. Brown has AB. He doesn't have any O's, does he? Does that necessarily mean it's the Smiths? No. But can we put together a Punnett square in which the Smiths have a baby with O blood, what would Mrs. Smith have to be? B-O. What would Mr. Smith have to be? B-O. So right here, we get that O-O baby. So if we knew that it was either the Smiths or the Browns, and we knew the blood types of the parents, can we conclude with no doubt which one it was? Yes, we could conclude that it was the Smiths' baby because they were the only parents that could possibly have a baby that was an O blood. Okay?